Greetings, respected viewers, or Kalimera. So here I am in Cyprus. I'm in the town of Larnaca. So here's the castle behind me. I visited this castle just a couple of days ago, and rather ancient it is. It's been rebuilt several times, so gone through various iterations, gone through many hands. You know, obviously it's this country's been independent since 1960, and it was a British colony before that for, my goodness, 82 years. Prior to that, it's part of the Ottoman Empire, and the Viennese were here, not Viennese, Venetians were here, the Genoese, the Louisian dynasty, who were French, Turner Kingdom, Richard the Lionheart, the Byzantine Empire, the Roman Empire. Obviously, in ancient Greek times, it was, I think, a Greek city-state in itself, but there we are. So, and this building has served as an army barracks, as a police station, and even there's one room which was a execution chamber with a gallows. Shan't go in now. You'll see that the signs are in Greek, English, and Russian in that order, because there are lots of Russian and Ukrainian tourists here. So here we are beside the Mediterranean Sea, and very gorgeous and azure it is. Just an idyllic temperature, so it's serendipitous for me that I came along and it wasn't too hot, because obviously certain times of year it can actually be scalding. Even though it's July, it's most acceptable. No places with palm trees is all bad, and in fact almost everything about Cyprus is good. One thing that pleases me is they haven't demolished some of the Turkish era, well, what's the word, monuments, would that be one? You see this? It's got Arabic calligraphy and stone. Because of course the Turks, they were using the Arabic script to write their language until the 1930s, when they turned to a form of Latin. So it's just a museum now, but there's some shows, concerts on there. It's not huge inside. We're going to be beside a mosque, and this mosque, well, is obviously being used for worship. Now, Cyprus is a prosperous country with an average income of $28,000 per skull. And so that's obviously attracted immigration. Met a waitress who was Nepali the other day, met Congolese people, obviously they're Indians here, generally not British Indians, but directly from India, and other ethnicities, Chinese people, and so on. And so these Muslims are not Turkish Cypriots on the whole, usually that they're people who moved in from other parts of the world. They're Nigerian students here, places like that. It being a Friday, that it's well attended, and there's a sign outside saying this is maintained by the Libyan government. Of course, Libya is actually not that far away, and they've got various toponyms which refer to Turkish people. I was impressed by that. I thought that's broad-minded. That's a Corinthian spirit for you. Here we are. Okay, the Grand Mosque Masjid, because obviously 20th of July 1974, when invaded by Turkey, and then there was population exchange, not a formal or agreed one, but the Turkish Cypriots from the south fleeing to the north, and the Greek Cypriots from the north fleeing to the south, and so there were virtually no Muslims left here. So I wonder where it fell into rack and ruin. I'm surprised it wasn't demolished, but I'm impressed at their broad-mindedness and their magnanimity that they didn't do so. I didn't wonder what happened to churches in the north and so on. So a little Muslim graveyard, and you'll see in typical Turkish style, the headstones, they've often got turbans on top, because they've got no imagery of any living creature like a person or an animal. They can have plants, images of plants, but no other likenesses of anything like that. So I'll get out of the way. So anyway, yeah, I haven't been in, and on the old tombstones, it's got the words in Arabic script as well. Right, so what else was I going to say? And they've got reasonably cordial relations with North Cyprus and with Turkey. Because I remember in the 80s, one could not travel between Turkey and Greece, and I know we're in Cyprus, not Greece. And I remember hearing people say that if you arrived in Greece, you had a Turkish stamp on your passport, you would not be admitted, and vice versa. I don't know if that's true. That's only anecdotal. So there we are. There's the minaret just above the trees. Maybe you can make it out, because it's so refulgent today. There's such reflection off the screen, I can scarcely see what I'm showing you. Okay, and perhaps this is a better angle for that old castle. So looking for some bureau de change to change some money. Obviously they use euros. They used to use a Cypriot pound, Then 2004, they were admitted to the European Union, and they started using the euro pretty quick. So obviously it's trilingual. Officially there are 3 languages here: Greek, Turkish and English, but in the south, in practice, very few people speak Turkish. If you go back to the Ottoman era, a lot of the Greek Cypriots could also speak Turkish, so that was the official language, and there was such a large Turkish community. The Turkish community declined, and obviously then English was the way forward if you're going to learn that one. By the time of independence, I don't think most people could speak English. Now, virtually everybody can, even if not perfectly. What was I going to say? But obviously, after 1974, there was no one to speak Turkish too down here, and obviously they were not very pleased with Turkey having invaded. But then again, the Cypriot government, they had tried to change the constitution as in to remove some of the guarantees for the Turkish minority. Now, there's some sort of reasonable case being made for doing that, saying, well, what's wrong with equality? You know, you're 18% of the population, you'll get 18% of the representation. We don't want racist discrimination against us, the Greek Cypriot majority, like we used to have in the Ottoman era. So that's why we're getting rid of it. And most people want Hellenistic union with Greece, well, then we should have it. Democracy rules. Although it's not quite that simple, because of course there was this Zurich agreement, the agreement between the United Kingdom, Turkey and Greece about Cypriot independence. So it just wasn't really up to Cyprus to determine its own future. Now you could say, well, the Cypriot the Cypriot Turkish community, well, if you don't like it, you can leave. So you've either got to put up with the situation, you've got to leave. Now I know they were getting a hard time. There are physical attacks to them. They're in little armed enclaves. That's why they felt they needed more support from Turkey. So Turkey, should they have invaded? Was it legally and morally justified? They claimed it was under the Zurich agreement. They were entitled to do so. And of course, Cyprus was attempting to break the agreement, as was Greece. There were already Greek troops here in 1974, but they were going to make Cyprus part of Greece. Remember, this would be the largest of the Greek islands that happened, and it would have about 10% of the population of Greece. There was the invasion. But from Turkey's perspective, was it worth it for the sake of 100,000 Turkish Cypriots and a tiny amount of land, by arguably breaking international law, certainly being condemned by the United Nations, not recognised by any other country, and all the people who got killed? Maybe it wasn't worth it financially propping up North Cyprus. Maybe we should say, well, Turkish Cypriots, you can come and live in Turkey, or you can tolerate that bad situation there. That's it, we're not intervening. What happened to Yurtta Barış, Dünya Barış, Ataturk's slogan, peace in the country, peace in the world? And if you look further back in history, of course, this country was ruled by Venice. You see here the most serene Republic of St. Mark, the winged lion, because that's a symbol of St. Mark, as in the one who wrote the Gospel. Peace to you, Mark the evangelist, my evangelist, as in he spread the good news. Oiangelos is a Greek word, good news. So anyone who wrote a gospel is an evangelist. So it's got it there in Latin, if you look closer here. So you see St. Mark's Square in the middle of Venice, you'll see this. Okay, and it's twinning the city of Larnaca with the city of Venice. It's got a Phrygian cap there, the sign of the symbol of Venice. Okay, and it's got the inscription here in Greek. Ta apok ul teria eginan estis tu octovrio, and so on. See, I can make the sounds, I don't always know what it means. So you may have known Shakespeare's play Othello, and of course it's set in Cyprus when this was Venetian territory. Obviously most people here were Greek speaking, were Orthodox Christians or Catholic Christians, and they're fighting against the Ottomans. So calling him the Moor, the black man, Othello. And anyway, we're talking about 22. So despite it having been ruled by the Venetians, they have cordial relations with Venice and the whole of Italy. That's an awfully long time ago. But this idea of national self-determination is quite a new one, and a highly controversial one. It's problematic as well. So, because Woodrow Wilson, the US president, he promulgated that idea in January 1918, or the First World War still raging, and as part of his 14 points, tried to induce Germany to give up the war, and think they get relatively lenient terms, but they didn't at that time. They left it a crucial 10 months, and a lot of people died in that time. But although he agreed with it, no other government agreed with that, and indeed, although he signed the Treaty of Versailles, the US Congress didn't ratify it. So, but anyway, it seems to be accepted by many people now. But when you look into it, you see it's more difficult, particularly in relation to someone like Cyprus. This is a case in point. Okay, national self-determination. Who is the nation here? Is Cyprus a nation? Is it two nations, Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot, or is Cyprus part of the Greek nation, or what? And there's just an ethnic Turkish minority. And so who's the self? Is it for the whole of Cyprus? Does it exclude the Turkish minority or not? Because you may well be taking some ethnic minority with you. And how do you decide? Do you have a referendum, or you elect a legislature and they make the decision? And having made the decision, are you allowed to revisit it? A bit like Brexit. The decision was made 3 years ago, still hasn't been implemented, 4 months after the deadline, and people are saying, let's have a second referendum. And why not a third and a fourth and whatever? But circumstances change, or if we were told something was bogus, are we allowed to redo it? So when the Greek Cypriots, when they wanted independence and they were almost 80% of the population in 1950, maybe the United Kingdom should have simply expedited that in short order and kept the military bases, which were agreed to anyway. And so that would have improved relations with Cyprus and Greece. It would have saved bloodshed, and it would have saved money, and everybody's a winner, right? Or was it just imperialist hubris to think that this country could remain a British colony despite the settled will of the majority of people here being to cease to be a colony and actually unite with Greece? The other thing is they didn't want to hack off the Turks too much. So there we are. It's fascinating. Anyway, visit Larnaca. This is coming up to the posher end of Larnaca. A few of the shops here, things you might need. The beaches aren't even that crowded, and they're boat trips you can take. We're not too far from the border with the northern side, and plenty of good restaurants, souvenirs, a little cathedral, the tomb of St. Lazarus. It's not too noisy, very few jet skis are noticed. A little marina with yachts you can go on, plenty of fresh fish restaurants. So everybody's conversant in the English tongue. What else can I say? I'm off to the bank there. Ooh, Kentro as in centre. We have so much to thank the Greeks for. Some of these words. All right, so that's it from Larnaca. I think I shall say goodbye.